their employees contributed in bringing the factory down. So these are all, and sometimes people tend to people tend to just gloss over some of these. But in our advisory roles that we play, we try to bring out all these things, especially first-timers. But if we have very vibrant venture capital companies, these are the kind of things that we have to train entrepreneurs. Look, if you want to go into the business of making raw materials for chemical, for the chemical industry, these are the problems you are going to encounter. So, if you now know what you are getting into, it's easier for you to tackle those problems. So we need those venture capital companies, and what I would recommend is that, again, those venture capital companies, we have to get the money from somewhere. If they source the money they are giving to SMEs, if they source it from the open market, that is, going to a commercial bank to get it, definitely the cost again will be high. So if there is a way, maybe under our development process, we find a way of getting out some money, just like we have programs like Shopee, You Win, and so on, those programs that are funded by government. If there is a way we can get out some funds, warehouse somewhere, maybe through the CBN or some other mechanism, and then allow new venture capital companies or the existing ones to have access to these funds at very good rates, then they can now nurture new companies, new ideas, which can be picked from the research system. This country has over 100 research institutes, and each of those institutes is coming up with one technology or one research result or the other.
Now, I still want to come back to the issue of the websites, which I talked about earlier in the course of our discussion. Now, looking at the websites that you have, it seems to cut across the country, yet not so many people know about the RMRDC. Why is this so?
I can share the blame to partly on the council and partly on the Nigerian system. When I say partly on the council, I agree we need to do more awareness programs. We need to reach out more to people. But what we've done over the years is we've tried to use exhibitions in most of the trade fairs that happen in almost every state capital. We'll always have a stand where we now display information, and But we also I already told you that we have on the average 30 to 40 conferences, workshops, seminars in different parts of the country. But of course, in each of these seminars, you can only accommodate 100 to 200 people in a whole state. Ideally, you should have over 100 of such seminars all over. But of course, based on budgetary constraints, we can only do a certain number of conferences, a certain number of workshops. Then beyond that, we do a lot of publications. If you look at the list of publications, if you look at our catalog, you will see that almost every week there is a new publication coming out from Raw Material Council.
But are they easily accessible?
And usually we print at least 2,000 copies. And these 2,000 copies are distributed to all stakeholders. But of course, like somebody told me, Nigerians sadly read. Except the few.
Except you have them in perhaps in their local dialects.
Okay. That's why I said, of course, we have part of the blame. We have never really translated into any of our local languages. Maybe that's what one of the things we can look into. We always publish in English. Except when we are doing seminars, of course, we speak in local language. So I agree, we need to do more awareness campaigns. We need to get our documents out there for people to, when I say out there, I mean getting more and more information out there in the public domain. But I know that the other part of the problem, which I said the Nigerian system also has some part of the blame, is that a lot of us do not look for information. In a real economy, if I'm interested, if I hear, I can make money mining gold, I can make money exploring granite and seeing what I can do with it, I am supposed to look for information. Where is the business? Do I need technology? Where do I get the technology? You start looking for it. Even as DG, once in a while you see me on the internet, I Google. I'm looking for information. I do Google on something, and I see that, oh, this thing I'm looking for, maybe I'm looking for the information from Washington. There is actually somebody in Oshobo in Nigeria who has done some work. I've had this experience in the past. Somebody sent a proposal to us, and I wanted to see what has been done by others. And this researcher was claiming that nobody in Nigeria has done anything in this area. And all I did was do Google with the title of his proposal. And I saw 5 other researchers who had done this in the 80s. And I quickly downloaded the information. So when the gentleman came, I said, look, 5 people have already done this. What I want you to do now is to study what they have done and show me what new thing you are adding to the research they had done before. And he was shocked. So part of the problem is that people don't look for information. And a new area that we are now going into to get down to the grassroots. In fact, that led to a new project we have now, which is called the World-Based Cluster Project. What we are looking at in that project is to encourage the establishment, or if you like, evolution of what I call innovation-based clusters. We have clusters in Nigeria already. Okay, if you go to Kano, for example, Kano is known for leather. There is a leather cluster there. You go to Aba, anything about shoes, anything about bags, anything about, you see people who didn't go to school producing these things. You go to Nnewi, any motor parts you can find, then it's probably not in existence in this world. And there is no motor part they cannot, if you can't find it in the market, they can fabricate it for you. That's a cluster. You go to Lagos, we're all familiar with the computer village in Otiba. Okay? Then in every major city, it could be under a bridge, there is a GSM market. You think it's an ordinary market. If you go there, you see probably over 50, 100 youths basically selling handsets, but also repairing them. You have an issue with your handset, they fix it, they change the battery, changes. That's a cluster, because what we are now talking about is transforming these clusters into innovation-based clusters. If you go to each of these markets, you see that they are properly structured. They have their unions. They sell basically about the same thing. But what we are now saying is that these trade-based clusters can now be transformed into production clusters, so that GSM market that is under a bridge can actually transform into a place where you actually assemble GSM. Just like Otiba has transformed, you can actually sit down in somebody's shop and assemble a computer. Okay, so that's the kind of thing we are now looking at. Under that project, we are going to villages now and looking at the raw materials that they have and trying to help them to establish clusters of processors of these raw materials. We already have a compendium of raw materials in every ward in Nigeria. It's also part of our information generating program. Now with that, we are driving that program, and we are starting off from Bayelsa State. As I'm speaking now, we have the technologies, that's the machines, for this first set of beneficiaries is ready. Machines for processing fish, machines for processing cassava, machines for processing oil palm, and machines for processing plantain.
But I want to ask, why actually are we dabbling into this, and perhaps why again in Bayelsa State? I mean,
no, the project is actually part of our vision. We have Vision 2020. We basically said, as Raw Material Research and Development Council, we want to see to the emergence of an innovation-based cluster, at least one in every local government. Okay? Now, there is no way we have 774 local governments in Nigeria. We went further to say we also want to have this in every ward in Nigeria. Of course, there is no way you can do all this in one go, because definitely that is beyond what you can do as an individual and as a council. Even when we get to a state that has been chosen as a pilot state, we can't go to all the local governments in one go. So we select a pilot local government, and then start. That's essentially where we're starting from. We did our surveys and then decided to start from the south and move up north. In fact, this year, because the one I say is ready started last year, this year we're moving up north to north central Nigeria, and then gradually, because we are also going to be talking to local state governments, so gradually the thing now spreads to.
All right, I would like us to take a quick break, and when we come back, we shall continue with our discussion. It's still question time on Channels Television. Professor Peter Onwualu, the DG of the Raw Materials Research and Development Council, is still here with us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Don't be left in the dark. Be the first to know. Get the latest news and developing stories. Anytime, anywhere, on your mobile device. Log on to m.channelstv.com and click on the Channels TV logo. Channels Television, the news at your fingertips.
You're welcome back. It's still question time on Channels Television. Our guest, Professor Peter Onwualu, the DG of the RMRDC, is still here with us, looking at raw materials utilization and development, of course, within the last 25 years. Now, I want to take you to the issue of the level of collaboration that you have with other like agencies and, of course, international partners. What can you tell us about that? Has it been worthwhile?
Oh, yes, it's worthwhile. We use consultants from almost all institutions in Nigeria, wherever we find expertise. If, for example, we are trying to award a grant in the area of pharmaceutical raw materials, we look for pharmacists. If we are trying to give a grant in the area of food and beverages, we look for a food scientist, wherever the person is, especially those that are in the real sector of the economy. We use them to evaluate the proposals, and then we give the grants. We also have a lot of collaboration with almost all research-based organizations in Nigeria. And then most importantly, the manufacturers themselves, those who actually need the products of these research.
How about international partners?
Oh yes, we are very vibrant in that area, because the kind of work we do, you cannot really do it in isolation, because some of these things have actually also been done elsewhere. Some of them, there are people who are also doing what you are doing. So you need to be in direct touch with the research community all over the world. And I can tell you that today, in fact, just this January 2013, the Raw Material Research and Development Council was named the regional focal point for Africa for an organization called World Association of Industrial and Technological Research Organizations. This is based in Malaysia. It's a global organization of institutions that are involved in industrial and technological research. South Africa used to host the focal point office for Africa, but of course they rotate every 4 years. So this year, after moving around the continent, the body decided that Raw Material Council should host this focal point for Africa.
That's for the next 4 years.
For the next 4 years.
Now, it was gathered by your agency recently that the country spends nothing less than 1 trillion naira, to import these raw materials, general importation of raw materials that are actually here within our shores. Now, why are we still having this challenge? I mean, even with the establishment of the RMRDC.
That RMRDC is established doesn't mean that the problem will evaporate overnight. What we have done, we have an agenda which we are following, and some of the problems have been solved. I must say that yes, we are spending trillions to import these things, but we're also saving already, because there are areas we have made progress and people are now sourcing locally. For example, some of the industrial chemicals we are using now are sourced locally. Those who are making paint, for example, are sourcing their raw materials locally. Those who are doing so many other things that people are doing and sourcing locally. You can see the lists. It's improving by the day. But of course, the gamut of raw materials really, it's a very large area. Anything, think about what you wear, what you eat, for raw materials for building houses, for building roads. I mean, it's the entire economy. For ICT, these are all raw materials. So it's not a problem that can evaporate overnight. I mean, I wish it can, but of course it cannot. Even developed economies, they still import some level of some types of raw materials. But what we are doing, what we are saying is that we must continuously work on reducing this import bill. And to answer your question, the problem is that research has been done. Some of the research has been taken up to start processing these raw materials. But a large quantity or a large number of the research findings that we have are still waiting for adoption. And the reason is that, I must have said this elsewhere, is that the SME sector is weak. Weak in the sense that today I have a compendium of over 500 technologies that you can use for producing one thing or the other. And we are ready to teach people how to do it. And we don't have people. We have only a few that are coming. I give you one example before I conclude. We try to intervene in the cashew sector. We discovered that a lot of the cashew we eat today are the ones people roast by the fireplace and so on. We started working with some people. We found some private sector people willing to collaborate. Today, you will see some cashew nuts well packed in cans in supermarkets in Nigeria. It's as a result of some of our efforts. There is a new cashew factory in Kogi State that we supported. Another one has just come up in Abeokuta. And we are also trying to do another one this year in somewhere around Enugu State, in a place called Umunnochi or so. Now, these are 3 factories. There's another one in Lagos, actually. And they are already hitting the markets with very good products. I would like to see 1,000 of such plants. Of course, this is not what government can do. Government can only do this 3 that we have done. Entrepreneurs should now come in and establish their own factories and do business. It's not for government to do the business. That's what is holding this country. Granite. We empowered somebody in Kuje here in Abuja to start doing cultured marble from Nigerian granite, using almost 90% local raw materials. He produces wash hand basins, tabletops, bathtubs, tiles. These are things we are all importing from China. But it's only one that we can support, and we have shown people, look, this is possible. Now, it is now left for Nigerians to come in. Another 1,000 or 2,000 of such plants, even in Abuja, the raw materials in FCT can support this. But it is not, I can't go as Raw Material Council to start running factories. I can only help people establish and move away so that others can also. That's the main problem.
Now, very soon you'll be rounding up your tenure as the Director General of the Council in the next few months. What would you say has been your biggest achievement? And of course, where do you see the Council moving in the next 4 or 5 years?
Well, I can say that in the last 8 years that I've been here, it's been very fulfilling with respect to what we have been able to achieve. We've been able to complete most of projects that were started before I came in. Part of what I did was to look at all those projects and I decided to complete and divest from them. That we have completed, and most of those industries and projects are now in the hands of the private sector. And then we've been able to commission and complete quite a number of research projects. As of last year, when we did the assessment, we have been able to come up with at least 20 commercializable research and development results from the time I came to present. Commercializable in the sense that they are ready for the market. One good example is making brake pads from palm kernel shells. That project has been driven to a point where the brake pad has been made, so it's ready for the market. When I looked at all the achievements, I saw that there was still a missing gap, and that missing gap is to get to the grassroots, to make sure that the technologies we have been driving or we have been developing can get to the average Nigerian who is somewhere producing one thing with bare hands. And that is why we have gotten ourselves into the Word-Based Cluster Project, which the Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, Professor Ewa, graciously approved. And the council is the coordinating agency for the national project on clusters for processing. So where I am seeing the council going is to drive this process further, so that in every community, in every local government, you have a cluster of people processing one raw material. All the industries in the cluster are revolving around one particular raw material. If that community is known for oil palm, there should be people doing palm oil, palm kernel, glycerin, soap, with modern technologies. The same thing with cocoa, same thing with granule, the same thing with our minerals, and you will see that the industrial revolution in this country will occur without anybody knowing it.
Well, I guess this is where we have to draw the curtain on this discussion. Professor Peter Onwualu, we thank you so much for sharing time with us on Question Time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been 25 long years since the RMRDC has been in existence in trying to meet its mandate of developing and utilizing available local raw materials. However, there's still a lot more to be achieved. Our guest believes utilizing local resources through the use of locally developed technologies at lower cost will enhance the production and value addition to the primary and secondary raw materials to meet the needs of the nation's industries. Whatever gains may have been made by the Council, we would like to see more involvement of stakeholders working with the RMRDC to set priority programs that would emphasize technology innovation needed for Nigeria's growth and development via research and resource-based investment. Well, that's our package for this week. Don't forget to send us your questions, comments and suggestions to questiontime@channelstv.com or watch online also at channelstv.com. I'm Ayatunde Balogun. Until next week, bye for now.